I'll begin by outlining Iraq is very different from Iran in a lot of different ways. Uh, you know, I would argue at least that like the history really a lot of the diversion in a lot of ways begins with the 50s when there was the Abdul Karim Qasim's coup against the king, and the king was murdered along with Nuri Said and others. So that inaugurated a whole period of political violence that continues to be an issue in Iraq and bedevils Iraqis sadly today. But anyway, the big thing is that a lot, so as everyone knows, like there's a lot of these Shiite militias that are coming into Iran, particularly Iran around Abadan and other parts of the country. Yeah, they're Iraqi, and they're tied to the Sepah, and
So
they are not popular.
Sepah is I see now. This is see
IRGC,
you're assuming
IRGC,
people know
they're
what
tied to the
Sepah is.
IRGC.
Sepah is IRGC. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
They are tied to the IRGC, okay? And they are not popular at all in Iraq. In the sense that they have some base of support among certain corrupt clerics and some extremist polities, but these do not, in my opinion, constitute any like electoral strength. What do I mean by this? So in October 2019, there were mass protests across Iraq under the banner of this movement called Tishreen. It was initially quite populist, leaderless in a lot of ways, but they developed some youthful leadership. But it was a cross-sectarian uprising against this setup of the Iraqi political configuration with the overthrow of Saddam. This thing, sometimes called the apportionment system, basically delineated centralized authority away from the presidency, because Saddam was the president, to more of a parliamentary system where the parties would determine the prime minister. You would need a 220 majority to elect a president who would in turn appoint a prime minister. This leads to a de facto situation where like every president of Iraq since then has been a Kurd, just as Iraqi Kurd, as a matter of how the sectarian dynamics play out. The Tishreen movement was a rejection of this because IRGC factions had dismissed a very popular Sunni general in the Iraqi army, Abdul Wahab Saadi, who had led the fight against ISIS. Okay, and they had also mismanaged the economy, the education system, etc. What followed was a crackdown by Adil Abdel Mahdi, the prime minister at the time. 700 people were killed in that. More than 700 were killed in that crackdown by IRGC-backed security forces. This was in October to November of
So
2019.
John, why
Yeah.
don't you give us a big picture of what are you trying to get to before you
Okay.
walk us
I'll
through the
just get to it.
details? Because we don't know where we're
Yeah.
heading with this. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so basically, Sadr is a very much a wild card in all this. Okay, Sadr and the Iraqi communists, basically, each of them are, and let me tell you, with Sadr, he is very much his own guy in the sense that he is out for number one himself. He is an opportunist. So we're in regard, basically,
So,
with
John,
regard to
before you continue, what I was asking is like, can you tell us like where are you, what are you, the like before you go walk us through the step by step to get us to
mm,
the destination? Do you want to give us what the
mm,
destination is, like what you're trying to conclude, so that we know where we're heading? Yeah,
yes, okay. So
yeah.
Iraq right now that is in a bit of a politically grim spot in terms of how it can relate to the Iranian people, in that there's always a little bit of unfortunately, just because of the nature of the political situation, there's always a degree of anti-American populism or anti-Zionist agitation going on among that's just a reality. I'm being descriptive, not prescriptive, and just saying that. However, here is what I'm going to say. Sadr has been saying and rallying people against epic fury. Okay, now that's now on its face. Yes, that is bad for Iranian people. However, let me be careful and let me explain something further. He has been claiming in his proclamations against Zionist aggression and stuff that in the demonstrations, people cannot bring Islamic Republic flags. Let me So it's kind of a kabuki theater what he's doing here, what I'm about to articulate to you. Basically, Sadr is very much opposed to the coordination framework IRGC-backed politicians who run Iraq's government right now, because his guys clashed with them during the Tishreen demonstrations of 2019 into 2021. Okay, he has been boycott the parliament. His system, his guys decide after getting I think 73 electoral seats in 2021. He did not have enough votes. Him and the Tishreen people and the Iraqi Communist Party did not have enough votes to get the majority needed to beat out the IRGC-backed people. We're, Sadr though is his basic agenda is to is Ayatollah Khamenei. Okay, I think who resigned recently. I think you've heard of this guy. He's in Iran. He basically resigned and then like threw his support to Khamenei. This really annoyed. And this was in 2022. Sadr doesn't like Qom or Qom, yeah, Qom, displacing rivaling Najaf as the center of Shiite thought. Okay, so his view is basically to consolidate power around himself eventually. Where now the Tishreen movement would and the Iraqi Communist Party have a very shall I say transactional relationship with him, in that they view his guys have sometimes been muscle for them in confrontations with the IRGC backed proxies that are heavily in the government, the coordination framework government right now. Like I believe the current Prime Minister Zaidi was part of the judicial coup. Now, this judicial coup basically says if parties like Sadr's boycott decide to resign or not stand for parliament, the next biggest getter of votes
Sure.
will
So,
occupy those seats.
John, do you,
Yeah.
I could
Mm,
actually let me give you a wave because
mm,
I think people are having a hard time following. So let me give you a
mm,
bullet point summary for people, and then maybe you could then
mm.
make your point in
Okay.
relationship to that. Okay. So
All right.
Muqtada al-Sadr, the guy that you're talking about,
Yes.
right? So he's
Yes.
basically fiercely opposed to the Islamic Republic, their hegemony in Iraq, even though
Yes.
he used to cooperate with them. It's okay. Let me say,
Yes.
at some point, even though he
Very
used to
true.
cooperate. Okay, don't worry. I got this. Okay, let me just go through this really quickly, and then
Mm,
you add anything you want to add. Okay, so you could close your mic right now. Just give me a second, right? So he at some point was working with the Islamic Republic, but then eventually he turned against them and against their hegemony in Iraq. So he positions himself as a staunch Iraqi nationalist, which is interesting. He wasn't like that before, but ever since the increase in of the influence of the Iranian regime, he's now more like nationalistic type, even though he's a Shia imam. Okay, so he's explicitly rejecting political interference from Tehran and Washington. So he's basically both siding it. He's like Iraqi, like he's like Iraq first. Fuck the Islamic regime in Iran and fuck America as well, which is, by the way, delusional because Iraq, if you there's no force in Iraq that could help Iraq fight back the influence of the Islamic Republic other than the United States. If the Americans leave Iraq, the Islamic Republic is right there. Like you will not be able to stop their influence. So you can't say fuck the Islamic Republic and fuck the United States at the same time. You have to pick one. You can't say fuck you to both of them. You have to pick a side, right? And that's the reality of it, right? So he recently rebranded his political coalition as a national Shiite movement. Experts note that this is a highly calculated move to change his pro-Iran Shia rivals, the coordination framework, directly on their own turf, while emphasizing Iraqi patriotism over foreign allegiance. It's interesting. This is actually really he's becoming very annoying to the Islamic Republic because he's a Shia mullah, and the Islamic Republic tries to influence Iraq using the Shia population there. So this is a Shia leader in Iraq, even though he's against the Islamic Republic. So he's influencing Shias in Iraq to turn against the Islamic Republic, right? So after withdrawing his massive 73-seat bloc from parliament in 2022 and boycotting recent local elections, Sadr continues to use street-level grassroots mobilization to delegitimize the Iran-aligned factions currently controlling the government in Baghdad. And this is a really complicated balancing act. Despite his political warfare against Iran's proxies, the relationship isn't purely hostile. Sadr has historically spent time living in Iran, respects its religious establishment. You know, he's like close to the Mullahs, and shares its anti-Western military sentiments, even as he fights Tehran for political dominance in his home country. I think his movement is trying to do an impossible task. Iraq is not at all in a position where you could basically be anti-American and anti the Islamic Republic at the same time. Anyway, so that's the context. So would you want to add something to that? Yeah.
Yeah, actually that was a very good upsum in a lot of ways. I agree. Two things I do want to add are one, I would say after those protests in 2019, there was a caretaker government under this man who I think is actually, just from my knowledge, the best bet Iranians could have from an already messed up Iraqi political system. I'm saying not ideal, but like, this is his name was Mustafa Kazimi or Kadhimi or Mustafa Kadhimi. He was basically like a technocrat who was very much willing to prosecute IRGC factions for crimes. Like that was kind of unprecedented. Like he was actually willing to put people in jail for assassinating. The second thing I do want to add is a big thing that I think you have to watch out for is Ayatollah Sistani. That man is in his mid 90s, okay? And he is sort of like I think he was born in Iran, but like he's an Iraqi. He's like a big quietist, very like fundamentalist and reactionary in a lot of ways. But he wants Shiism. He's very much
So
a
let, let
critic
me let
of
me let me
Khamenei.
let me give
Yeah.
you the context for that as well. So in an easy to understand way, when Ali Khamenei was alive, Ali Khamenei and Sistani were the main two leaders, spiritual leaders in Shia Islam globally. Okay, and they were in competition against each other. Ali Khamenei in Iran and Sistani in Iraq. I'm talking Persian. Ali Khamenei represents, so Shia Islam got divided into two main pieces, two main fragments after Khomeini. The parts of Shia Islam that believes in the guardianship of the jurist that Khomeini pull out of his ass, and the Shia part of Shia Islam that doesn't believe in the guardianship of the jurist, recognizing that Khomeini pulled it out of his ass, right? So Sistani represents the Shias who don't believe in the guardianship of the jurist, and Ali Khamenei represents the Shias who do believe in the guardianship of the jurist, right? A lot of people consider Sistani to be less political because the guardianship of the jurist suggests the idea that you can't have Shia rule until the Mahdi comes back. If you don't believe in the guardianship of jurist, means that can't have mullahs ruling until the Mahdi comes back. But obviously, Khamenei represents the side that no, you can, because I'm speaking to the Mahdi, so he tells me it's okay. So shut the fuck up, right? And that's basically the division between the two of them. However, a lot of people are like, oh, therefore Sistani must be better because he's less political. He doesn't want Shia Islamic politics. Fuck Sistani. He had nothing to say. Sistani, by the way, the people like Sistani represent the part of Islamic leadership that make it seem like Islam could be secular, and then many people are like, see, it's not all that bad. So that makes it a lot more dangerous. But also fuck Sistani because he had nothing to say about, like, he's supposed to be anti Ali Khamenei, anti Islamic Republic, but he had nothing to say regarding the massacre of the Iranian people by the Islamic Republic. But he did condemn the Americans for attacking the Islamic Republic. So yeah, fuck him. But yeah, go on.
Okay, so basically, like I said, Armin, with Iraq, it's kind of a rough situation politically.
Oh,
If
you
you're
don't
looking
say.
for,
Yeah,
it's hard. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. It is what it is. What can I say? Unfortunately,
right.
but where I'm going with this is when Sistani dies, which could happen. There could be. I think
Yeah.
there may be like some instability. Just something to keep an eye out for is instability in Iraq in the event that Sistani dies, and then you have Sadr basically wanting to either take his spot or
No,
eclipse him
no, start.
somehow.
No, okay, no, no, no. Okay, let me correct you on this. Okay, Sistani is like a great marja, like a Sadr is like a religiously. He, even though he's a mullah, he's religiously has no authority. He's a political figure, but he is like a baby, like when it comes to religious authority. Like you're talking, like Sistani is not just a marja, he's like a great marja, he's like the greatest of all marja. You're talking like these are like, I know people look at them and see like that's a mullah with the turban and this is a mullah with the turban, so like it gets the same. Like there are worlds apart. This is like a spiritual leader for many millions of Shias worldwide. Sadr is like a political activist, at some point a military leader or whatever. Like that's like a
True,
completely different type of mullah, right? He will never be able to, like he's on a completely different league. Like where he wouldn't, like Sistani could not, like he's like he's not even in a position of Sistani, right? Yeah. Go ahead.
fair. That is fair. Yeah, you are correct. He is definitely more of a political demagogue, but I do think he has like he's an egomaniac, and I just like he's very unpredictable in terms of like his ego. I just could imagine him like trying to like buff himself up or claim Sistani's legacy or something
Oh
like
my
that.
God, no! Like
Uh,
he would be laughed at.
uh,
Like people would call him retarded. Like he's like he doesn't have the religious credentials to even suggest anything like that. Like the based on the
well,
like
or
yeah.
backing people that would support him. It's just I do think it would cause I do think Sistani's death would cause a
I mean,
lot of
Sistani is
instability.
not even a competition to al-Sadr because Sistani is not even a political figure. He's like just a spiritual leader.
Fair.
Yeah,
That is fair. He is primarily religious.
yeah.
Though I will
Yeah.
say this is the thing with Sistani is that there is like a portion of the Hashids who are not. So yes, almost all the Hashid Ashabi are IRGC infiltrated, okay, or controlled. In the early days of the war against ISIS, there were some Shia who had joined on in line with Sistani, who were there primarily for what they called shrine defense. But it's prime. But like they find themselves constantly overshadowed by or overwhelmed by by the Qasem Soleimani uh, mercenaries and like I could go, yeah, like Kataib Hezbollah, Sabah al Haq, etc. But
Okay.
yeah, that's all I wanted to add.
I'd like
So
to get
yeah.
on with finish like half of the remaining list at least. But I just propose before I move on to make it easier for us normies. The guys in the turbans need to color grade their turbans like they do the belts in karate, so that we can tell which is.
That's a
Okay.
great idea. We should do that. Okay.
All right.
Uh,
Cat lady, go ahead.
just one
Oh,
statement. One statement. Are we moving away from Iraq?
I would like to. We have 20 minutes and
Yeah.
4 people on
So
the list.
okay. So just one point is, I think if you're following Iraqi politics and the relationship in to Iraq, you need, what's more relevant right now is the new Prime Minister Ali Al-Zaidi, who just became the Prime Minister. That is going to have a lot of more impact on the Islamic Republic's influence in Iraq. That is a big deal. So keep an eye on that.